are listening to Why I Vaccinate, and we are going to be talking now about COVID protection for our youngest family members. I'd like to introduce you to Lynn Bahta, who is an advisory committee member for the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. She is also the immunization clinical consultant at the Minnesota Department of Health. Welcome, Lynn.
Thank you for having me.
There is a lot going on right now with vaccines, especially right now, vaccines for kids. When we started the show back in spring of 2021, there was not a COVID vaccine yet for kids 5 to 11, and older kids had just recently been able to begin to be vaccinated. What do you think we are going to see in terms of timing for the review by the FDA for Moderna?
Oh, that's the $1,000,000 question, isn't it, Veronica?
Yes.
We've heard that Moderna was going to be submitting their information, and so it's a matter of time for the FDA to go through that review process, go through all the data. We're hearing that there are some FDA meetings scheduled throughout June, so it's very possible that one of those meetings could be a discussion about the Moderna vaccine, and if it's authorized for the children 6 and under, we might have a vaccine for kids as young as 6 months, but in sometime in June is what I am hearing. Sometimes we hear the information direct from the New York Times. So it's been really hard to predict when things are coming out outside of what we're hearing in the general media.
Yeah, and I think it's really important for families to understand the role that FDA has in this and then what CDC does. So, just by way of background, we know that VRBPAC will see the data first, and it will review the data and it will advise the FDA, and then it goes to the CDC. And can you talk about what the committee that we are on does when we happen to be asked to address the issue?
Mm-hmm. Typically, we are given a package of background information, and so that's typically if there's any publications that have come from the research that has been done. We often have access to the briefing information from the FDA. And then during the meeting, we're presented with certain things that allow us to consider how to use the vaccine. And in these situations, we're looking at how severe the disease is. And so what impact does this have on certain populations? We know that in the past, coronavirus hasn't landed children in the hospital as much as it's landed our seniors and people who have other health conditions. But we also do see children ending up in the hospital, and we have seen children die from COVID. And so we're weighing the risks of the disease against the benefits of vaccination and the risks of vaccination. And so that is data. It's data about diseases and data about the vaccine and the vaccine side effects, and if there's any other concerns about the vaccine. We look at how should that vaccine be made available. Are there certain groups we need to pay attention to because either because of their risk or because of they may be disenfranchised. They may be in disadvantaged communities where they just don't always have access to the vaccine. So there's quite a few things that we actually consider during that meeting to think about what kind of recommendation we want to have. And once the decision's made, there's an ongoing evaluation afterwards, of the safety of the vaccine and the usefulness of the vaccine. Something that we're seeing and had a discussion about was how the variant Omicron has
Mhm.
um, uh, been able to elude our immunity against coronavirus, both if we had had the disease or if we'd been vaccinated. And how do we handle that? And do we need to be making different recommendations? What tools do we have in terms of vaccines that could be to the advantage of people in building protection that they've gotten from vaccination? Is it still protecting against serious disease, meaning disease that ends up lands you in the hospital, or you could die despite vaccination? So those are all things that are ongoing even once a recommendation is made.
I know Anne has a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
Lynn Bahta, are we going to see another vaccine maybe in the fall, the winter, or maybe next spring that's updated and that will address some of these concerns that you're talking about?
That certainly has been discussed. I think that we need to understand where the direction that this virus is going, and that's challenging when you
Right.
have a brand new virus. And what we're learning is that right now it seems to be mutating fairly quickly,
Mhm.
and as a result, we can't always predict as well what direction it's going to change. Is it going to become more infectious like the Omicron strain, or is it going to be a more serious illness like the Delta strain or Delta variant? And so I think that um, it's a race for time and prediction, but we really need to know this by June in order to have something available for the broad community who's already been vaccinated, to make it a useful vaccine. And I don't have the answer to that. I think that that's where there's got to be a lot of cooperation globally and nationally
Yeah,
between the people that do produce a vaccine and the scientists, who are trying to understand where the variant changes are going to occur.
sure. Lynn Bahta, immunization clinical consultant at the Minnesota Department of Health. She's also on the advisory committee for the U.S. Centers for Disease Control. Thank you for your expertise today. It was very interesting hearing what you have to say about this, I would say, puzzling disease.
It is puzzling, and that's part of the nature of the newness of it.
Yes, yes. You've been listening to Why I Vaccinate, presented by the Franny Strong Foundation and the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. I'm Ann Thomas, and on behalf of my co host, Veronica McNally, thank you for listening, and we hope you have a great day.